everyone. This is AlanCowgill, and for those of you that don't know, I've been a real estate investor since 1995, and I've had private lenders since 1997. And I'm known as the guy that's cracked the code on finding private lenders. And so along the way, my students started to email me and call me on the Dodd-Frank Act, and thought I'd take some time along with a good friend of mine, Larry Harbolt, and talk to you about that. Larry, you out there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Well, let me make sure everybody knows a little bit about Larry, too, here. He is a popular national real estate speaker and teacher whose time-tested strategies and nuts and bolts teaching style has helped thousands of aspiring real estate entrepreneurs to realize their financial dreams. Larry has been successfully creating creatively buying and selling for over 30 years, and has written numerous popular articles and real estate courses, and appeared on numerous television and radio shows explaining his popular strategies. He is so respected in the industry that NBA star Shaquille O'Neal has purchased his courses, and Larry's only one of two real estate teachers whose works have been introduced into the Library of Congress. He has written numerous articles and created courses and books on helping hundreds of investors just like us to build a fortune from deals to amassing profit on deals that they do. So, Larry, I want to tickle you're here. And just another side note about Larry and I, we have known each other for, oh my gosh, seems like forever. We've known each other for a long, long time. Actually knew him, Larry, before he became a speaker.
Yeah, well over 10 years ago.
Yeah. So, in fact, we were in a mastermind group once, and he even had a chance to hang out in Costa Rica for a week. And I remember having dinner with him and his wife and my wife. So we got a lot of history together. So the interesting thing is on this Dodd-Frank Act, when it came along, Larry and I started to talk about it, and we actually created ebooks at the same time on the topic, and so I thought, we need to get the word out on what's going on with this Dodd-Frank thing, and just to help our students. And so Larry thought it'd be a great idea too. So let's get into it and start talking a little bit about it and doing some training on it. The official name of it is Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Act, and it was signed into law in July of 2010. Most significant change in U.S. financial regulations since the Great Depression. To kind of give you the impact of this thing, it contains new regulations for loan originators, including seller financing on real estate transactions, and that's where we come in on our creative real estate deals. The intent of the act was to protect consumer borrowers from dishonesty in the financial markets. We all know that the market crashed here back in 2007, 2008, and so this came into play to try to stop that from ever happening again. But in reality, the questions still remain as to whether or not this legislation will truly help or further hinder consumers, especially in the area of credit and borrowing. Provisions of the act could actually lead to additional financial fallout. Now imagine that. So that's kind of what we're staring at here, and it's really confusing for a lot of folks. For an example, you take a potential borrower that has imperfect credit, maybe past foreclosures, and is a bad credit risk, but private lenders, like in my world, they help borrowers rebuild credit and build equity and reduced monthly housing expenses. The Dodd-Frank imposes extreme hurdles, especially on borrowers in 14 states that have they've only got 3 available options, none of which is very appealing or advantageous. And so what I'm talking about here is where the private lender could actually help a potential borrower do what I just talked about. In these 14 states here, there are additional restrictions on the private lender. What are those restrictions? Well, when the Dodd-Frank Act and the SAFE Act came out, which are tied together, the government put restrictions on the loan originators. Well, in 14 states, they took it even farther, and they took it down to the private lender and required that the private lender had to take a test in order to get licensed. Now, there are ways to mitigate that. You can still borrow money from a private lender and just work with a loan originator within those states to get the deal closed. So you still got your private lender and everything goes forward. So that's one way. There are a couple other ways. So, but if you're in one of those states, just recognize that the laws in this is taken a little bit farther. But there are ways to successfully use private lenders, and my students do. So here's what the law says. It was intended for better financial regulations in the United States and to make another financial crisis less likely, implements changes that affect both the supervision and oversight of financial institutions. So that last part right there is what they're really doing is checking out the financial institutions. Now, there are 9 actions that the government took, and I'm going to take you through those right now. First off, the new resolution procedure for large financial companies. So there was new procedures out there for large companies. There was also creation of a new agency, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in just a few minutes. It's called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and it's responsible for implementation and enforcement of compliance with consumer financial laws. So we got another body out there to regulate. So it's a new agency that oversees this. The third item is the introduction to more stringent requirements with regard to regulatory capital requirements. And the fourth one there is affecting substantial changes in the regulation of over-the-counter derivatives. Now, what's a derivative? Well, it's a security. The value is determined by fluctuations in underlying assets. The most common underlying assets include stocks and bonds and commodities, currencies, interest rates, and market indexes. Most derivatives are characterized by high leverage. So that's what they mean by that word derivative. Let's go on. The reform of the regulation of credit rating agencies. So the credit rating agencies got some more regulations. Implementation changes to corporate governance of executive compensation packages. So how they got paid. Like the mortgage loan originators got paid. The incorporation of the Volcker Rule. Well, what's that? It's a federal regulation that prohibits banks from conducting certain investment activities with their own accounts and limits their own ownership of and relationship with hedge funds and private equity funds, also called covered funds. The Volcker Act rule purpose is to prevent banks from making certain types of speculative investments that it conducted back in 2008 in the financial crisis. So they incorporated that. Next item is in affecting major changes in the securitization market, and the last one is require regulations of advisors to certain private funds. So that's the 9 big steps that they took. So, change is on the way, and it was passed in 2010. The bulk of legislation comes into effect now, 2014. And the borrower's ability to repay loans and whether or not a mortgage is considered qualified was part of their key focus. The new rules for mortgage servicing intended to put into place stronger protections for property owners facing foreclosure, and the rules for new loan originator compensation, which is one of the 9, will address practices that promote steering of borrowers into costly or riskier loans. You know, what happened in 2008 was, and prior to, was that it was seen that the mortgage loan originators were steering borrowers into more risky loans, and this comes in and sets some rules in place so that doesn't happen. Now, I talked to you about one of the 9 on this new agency that came into play. It's called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and it's to protect consumers by regulating consumer loans, credit and debit cards, financial advisory services, and debit collection practices, and it reports right to the Treasury Department. So there are some exclusions for individual property sellers, and there's 2 important exceptions that you need to be aware of. One is that individual sellers who sell only one property in 12 months and what they're allowed to do. And number 2 is seller financing that sell 3 or fewer properties. So what they did was, as part of this Dodd-Frank Act, is they came in, for like us creative finance guys and gals, and it said, if you're going to sell 1 property in 12 months, here are the rules. If you're going to sell under 3, here are the rules. So they talked about this Truth in Lending Act and Regulation Z as part of this. And for those that provide private seller financing and engage in a minimum number of transactions per year are actually considered to be creditors rather than lenders. So they get into the terms and said if you're going to do less than 3, then you're a creditor. If you're more than that, then you're a lender. Regulation Z, it says that seller financiers are considered to be creditors if they extend credit that was secured by a dwelling, other than those certain types of high-cost mortgages, 6 or more times in the preceding calendar year, or if they were extended more than 1 high-cost mortgage in any 12-month period of time. So for further definition of those, you can get into those, but basically what's happening is they've gone in and taken a look at the Truth in Lending Act, and this Regulation Z out here has some restrictions on what's allowed. Seller financiers excluded from the definition of being a loan originator for the purpose of compensation provision unless they use table funding, which is a procedure by which a mortgage broker closes a mortgage loan in their company's name and funds the loan from their own sources of fund, but then at the time of settlement, transfer that fund back to a lender. So that's what a table funding is. So they're excluded from being a loan originator for the purpose of compensation. Remember, this act impacts the loan originator's compensation. Differentiating between being a creditor or a lender is extremely important here in the eyes of the government, primarily because the creditors may not be subject to the stringent licensing requirements that the lenders are. So that's the key thing. So if you're a creditor, then you don't get hammered with these licensing requirements. But if you're a lender, obviously, that's what they were looking to restrict. So there's some additional exclusions for seller financing. There's 2 of them here I want to talk about. Number 1, if you're a natural person, an estate, or a trust, like my IRA is in a trust, and provide seller financing for only 1 property in any 12-month period of time, specifically if you are transacting a seller financing transaction and are a natural person, an estate, or a trust, you will not be considered a loan originator if the following exist. And here they are. You provide seller financing for only 1 property at any 12-month period of time. So if you're only doing 1 property in a year, then you fall into this, and then you have more latitude. No, you aren't considered a lender. 2, you own the property that is securing the financing. 3 is you did not construct or act as a contractor for the construction or resident on the property in your ordinary course of business. So you aren't a contractor and put the house together. And the last one is the financing meets the requirements that are described below. The financing must have a repayment schedule that does not result in negative amortization. So they didn't want the person in the house to get upside down. And the financing must have a fixed rate or an adjustable rate that resets after 5 or more years. These rate adjustments may be subject to reasonable annual and lifetime limits. So what they're doing there in that one is they're making sure that the interest rate doesn't get out of hand for the person that's making payments on the house. And, that was part of the problem back in the crash. Now, number 2, if you're a seller financer, regardless of whether you're a natural person, estate, or trust, you are not considered to be a loan originator if the following conditions exist. You're closing 3 or less deals in a year. So we just dealt with a person doing 1 deal a year. Now, this is people that are doing 3 or less in a year. You are not considered a loan originator. And remember, the loan originator has licensing rules, and there's a lot more demands on them. So you don't want to be that unless it's part of your natural job. But you have to make sure that you fall within these guidelines right here. You provide seller financing for 3 or fewer properties in a 12-month period of time. You own the property. They're securing the financing. You did not construct or act as a contractor with the construction of the resident of the property in ordinary course of business, which is just pretty much what we saw for the one house. And the financing meets requirements that are described below. The financing must be fully amortized. The financing must have a fixed rate or an adjustable rate of interest that resets after 5 or more years, and these rate adjustments must be subject to reasonable and annual and lifetime limits. So once again, I want to make sure that the person in the house doesn't get upside down. So if you're doing 3 or fewer deals in a year, those selling a commercial property, raw land, or selling to a buyer who is not intended to live in the property that's being purchased are not likely to be affected by the new licensing requirements. So these are exempt if you're in these categories. And likewise, with very few exceptions, individuals and trusts can do 1 or more a year without being affected. Now, if you're doing 3 or fewer deals, corporate entities such as LLCs can do up to 3 deals a year, providing the following criteria is met. 1 is you got a fixed rate of interest for 5 years. 2, no balloon on the note, and it must be fully amortized. Now, this balloon payment, I'm going to talk about it quite a little bit here because it's an important factor on these deals and when you can and cannot use a balloon. And number 3, the buyer has to be qualified on their ability to repay the loan, which means they got to be capable of repaying this so they don't get in over their head. Mortgage loan originator is defined as an individual who works with a borrower to complete a mortgage transaction. This person can either be a mortgage broker or a mortgage banker and is the original mortgage lender. If an investor does no more than 3 seller financing properties transactions each year, then he or she will not need to become a mortgage loan originator. But if you do more than 3 a year, you got to either become a mortgage loan originator or you find a mortgage loan originator who is willing to work as a go-between. Now, that's going to be an option for many of you. That second part is to find a mortgage loan originator that's agreed to it and it's going to pick up a fee in the middle. Now, for sellers who are real estate investors and will have more than 3 properties to sell, primarily using seller financing within a 12-month period of time, how do you do more deals without the need to become a licensed as a mortgage loan originator? Well, you can do 3 deals in an entity such as an LLC. You could do another deal either in your own name or in a trust, and then a second entity that is owned by your spouse, if applicable, could be essentially to add more deals. So what I'm showing you here is you got some different options in how you handle the deal. There's also ways to buy and sell property through self-directed IRAs, which I love to do. Here you could also set up an LLC to purchase, sell, and fund properties to the end buyer. And so here's a little chart that I made just to kind of let you see some different options. And what's going to happen here in a couple of minutes is I know we got Larry hanging out there. He's going to come on in and talk to you about some other options on how you can manage your business and do more deals. But let's say, for an example, you're married and both you and your spouse have IRA accounts. You could technically do 14 deals a year, you personally and your spouse personally, 3 through your LLC, 3 through spouse's LLC, 3 through your IRA LLC, and then 3 more through your spouse's IRA. Before you would need to become a licensed mortgage loan originator. Now, let me share something with you, why this is important. On the licensing of the mortgage loan originator, it's my understanding from my attorney that the first year that this test rolled out, that more people failed the test, only about than they thought would. Only about a third of them made it. In fact, I understand from my attorney it was a higher failure rate than attorneys have when they take the bar exam. So, the test is pretty rough. As it presently stands, though, at that point, it's likely that you would need to either become a mortgage loan originator if you're doing more than 14, or a licensed loan originator going forward. And in any case, seeking the advice of an attorney is certainly recommended. Now let's talk about this balloon deal. Balloon notes are used for individuals, trusts, and estates, for those only doing one seller carryback within a 12-month period of time. So you're allowed to do it. So if you're just doing one deal, you can have a balloon on a property that be used as the end buyer's primary resident. You'll have a 5-year rate. At the end of 5-year rates, you may increase, but only a maximum of 2 points a year. So they put some restrictions on how high this thing can go up interest-wise, and with a cap of 6 points overall from the initial rate. The initial interest rate on the note must tie to an index, such as the prime rate or a T-bill. So what happens is when you put somebody into a property, the interest rate has to tie to something. It can't just be something you pick out of the air. And you can increase it at the end of 5 years, but you got a max there. You can't raise any more than 2 points and 6 overall. The rules apply only to residential mortgage loans where the note is secured by dwelling or residential real estate property that actually uses the dwelling. And some restrictions that don't apply. If the property is not used for the purchaser's primary residence, then these don't apply. Or if to LLC partnerships or other legal entities that are the property sellers. The note may not have a balloon if individual, trust, or estate sells more than one property a year, and you're using seller carryback financing with the dwelling being as primary residence. So if you're doing more than one, then you can't have a balloon. Those days are over. And I know most of us, myself included over the years, have used the balloon quite a lot on deals. You can't do it at this juncture if it's more than one a year. In addition, the following rules will apply. Fixed rate of 5 years of interest. At the end of 5, no more increase than 2 points per year. And the seller required to determine the buyer's ability to repay the loan. Now, some selling workaround options. You could become a mortgage broker in order to initiate the loan using the private loan with the purchase of the property. But I think you're going to find that to be a pain. I'm not saying don't do it. It is an option for you and do the loans that way. So the requirements are painful with the Dodd-Frank Act. That's why a lot of places where I speak, and I know a lot of places where Larry speak, people are spun up about this. The thing of it is, you do have some options, and Larry is a master at these options. And so, Larry, how about if you take them through some of the things that you and I worked on, and let's talk to them a little bit about the options here now that I've gotten through the foundation, because this is really what the people they want to know about the Dodd-Frank, I know, but they want to know now what can we do, and why don't you jump in and let them know?
Okay. You talked about the working with a mortgage broker. They have a license. They can do the real estate funding transaction. That's very important. But what I wanted to talk about, now remember, if the mortgage broker has a license and the buyer or borrower can pay them a fee for their services and move the deal through. But some other options that we all have is, number one, the corporate sale. Because you see, the holder of corporate stock or shares of beneficial interest of a limited liability company, they can sell their corporate stock or their shares of beneficial interest of the LLC anytime they want. So by selling the shares of the company, the LLC or the corporation, you're not selling real estate, you're selling a company. The Dodd-Frank Act mentioned nothing about selling a company. Now, most companies have multiple assets, of which one could be a house. So if someone bought the shares of stock or the shares of beneficial interest of the LLC, and one of the assets could be a house, they could move into that house. So because you're buying the shares of stock of a company, you're not buying real estate per se. Dodd-Frank mentions nothing about that as a prohibited transaction. So you can sell your corporation, you can sell your LLC, of which one of the assets that the company holds. Just like if you bought a factory that was owned by a corporation, the factory is filled with multiple assets, drill presses, all kinds of different things. So when you buy the shares of stock, you're buying all the assets with it. So that's why the corporate sale is something that could be done. Now, there are some issues with that, but it is a way that you can still do more transactions and still not violate the law.
Yeah, Larry, one of the things you and I talked about, that you were talking to me about, you can't just have a corporation. The only asset in the corporation is the house.
Correct. That's why you need multiple assets. Yes,
yeah,
you need multiple assets.
Okay.
And what can the other assets be? It could be a boat, some pictures, full dishes. It could be multiple things. Who's to say what value is? See, that's the important thing. Nobody knows what value is. For instance, through many of the houses that I have bought, I have collected over the years many Velvet Elvis paintings, dogs playing poker, velvet matadors, and velvet clown pictures. Now, to me, they're worth millions, but what are they worth to someone else? So value is subjective to each party of the transaction. So those assets, those old dishes, those old pictures, that old bicycle, that boat, you can't put a value on it other than what you and a buyer agree to. So the multiple assets is going to be critical, because you don't want to stand and look like a disguised sale of real estate. You're selling a corporation or an LLC with multiple assets.
So it might be right for some folks, just an option.
It might be. It could work if you had a corporation that owned a house and you wanted to sell it.
Okay.
Another option that Dodd-Frank mentioned, and I wanted to make clear, you could do a lease option. Alan talked about you can have a balloon, but you can have a lease option for a specific period of time. Now, the only thing about doing a lease option, Dodd-Frank has made it very clear that the option fee or any of the rent cannot be used as part of the payment for the equity of the property. In other words, if it's an option fee, you're getting paid an option fee, that can't apply to the purchase price. You can't give credit on any of the rent you receive for that specific time that the lease option is good for. But your lease option can be for 5 years, 2 years, 10 years. So that would be the same as a balloon, but they failed to mention that. And that way, at the end of their term, they can go get financing. And in many cases, you're helping them by doing the lease option to rebuild credit if they've been credit damaged. Very important. So the lease option can be a tool. Just remember, the option fee or the option consideration cannot apply towards the equity or the purchase price of the property, and none of the rents can be applied towards equity or purchase price. They have to be separate, and they both serve a specific purpose. But the lease option, if you want to do a shorter term, will allow you to do that.
Another option, favorite ways of selling property too. So that's a
lease option is great.
Yep.
Because in most states, the lease option, they bought a right, they're paying rent, and they've got a right to close on it at a future date. Mm-hmm. But if they don't work out, you can evict them out of the property, which is a great benefit to us investors.
Yep.
Now, another option that they failed to mention in the law is selling to another real estate investor. So let me pose a question here. If I owned the property and I sold it to Alan, there's no prohibition within the law that I can sell to another investor who makes their primary living from buying and selling real estate. I can sell to Alan. There's no reason why Alan, now he signs a note and a mortgage with me. There's no reason he can't let someone else take over that note and mortgage by assuming it and taking over the property. Now, I will say that whoever takes over that loan subject to, in other words, they'll take over what he agreed to pay. They will assume it. I say you need to qualify those people to make sure they can afford it. That's one of the things that the law clearly harps on, is they have to be qualified. And so you're going to have to verify their income, their credit, whatever it takes to make sure that you have done your job to prove that they can afford. And I recommend using some type of disclaimer in your contract with them that states that they understand all of this. But by letting them take over that mortgage and assume it, you didn't write a loan to them. You wrote it to the investor. The investor just passed it on to someone else and let them take over the investor's position. But now the people that took over the loan are paying the initial investor, me, every month for the next 30 years. But I never offered them, or I never created paperwork for them other than an assumption. So I didn't offer them installment sale treatment. I offered to an investor who allowed someone to take over their position. So by not creating more paperwork, that should be a way to get around doing these type of loans. So that's one you want to make sure that you talk to your attorney on that one. But that should not
flow of payments, Larry. You sell flow of payments. You sell the property to me.
Mm-hmm.
What you said, right? And then we've also got a someone that wants to buy the property. And I would.
But you sign a note. You sign a note in the mortgage with me.
Right, but then
you agree to buy it,
and then they assume that mortgage.
Right.
And then they make payments to you. So I'm out.
Correct. You're out of it.
Okay.
But the point is, I recommend, if you're going to use this technique as the investor, you hold the property for a period of time so you don't look like a straw person. In other words, someone that's just there to make the deal work. But if Alan held the property for several months and rented it, then he was a participant in it without any type of fraud.
Yeah, and you'd be renting right to the people that want to buy it.
Right. Correct.
Okay.
So it could be a wonderful way of doing it, and there would be no limit. Like Alan showed you, with 14 different ways you can do all types of deals. So I like that one because I've got a lot of investor friends who might want to rent a property for a few months and make a couple dollars, and we might be able to pass that good deal on to someone that's more credit challenged or has got a bad credit history that they're rebuilding. It could be good for everybody, and that's what we want.
Yeah,
we are
the
not
payment that you're talking about would come to me, and so that'd be that'd be my profit for doing the deal.
The rent would come to you until they assumed a mortgage when you allowed them to, and at that time the payment would come directly to me, the original investor.
Okay.
It can be an excellent way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Alan and I we've done a lot of talking, and because we both love land trusts.
Yep.
We feel this is the best and most positive way to be able to do deals where there should be absolutely no violation of the Dodd-Frank Act. So let me explain. If you own a property in a land trust, the beneficiary of the land trust can sell their beneficial interest in the trust. Now, most of you understand, or you may not, but let me tell you, in most land trust situations, the trustee owns the real estate. The beneficiary, because of the wording in the trust document, they only own an interest in a trust. They do not own real estate. They own an interest in a trust, which is personal property. So if the beneficiary sold their beneficial interest on monthly payments, that is not a violation because they're selling personal property. They're not selling real estate. So by selling that beneficial interest can be a wonderful way of transferring property legally, morally, and ethically, because you're not selling real estate. You're selling an interest in a trust because the owner never changes who is the trustee. Once all of the beneficial interest has been paid for, at that point in time, now the person buying the beneficial interest becomes the beneficiary. And now they own the property outright.
Yeah,
but instead of selling the property, sell the beneficial interest.
Yeah, just for the folks that haven't dealt with land trusts like Larry and I have, I've been doing them for years and years and years like Larry. There is a page inside the land trust. The land, when the physical trust agreement is not recorded downtown at the courthouse, but there's a page in there that's the beneficial interest. And so, for an example, you can have one person be the beneficial interest. You can have your company be the beneficial interest, and actually, you can sell that over to somebody else, and then they would own the beneficial interest in the property or in the trust, and the trust owns the property. So you really got three players here. You got yourself that is the current owner of the property and you want to sell it, and you've got it in a trust, and then you've got a trustee. You know, many people make an attorney a trustee for their deals, or you want somebody you can trust, and then there's also the person that wants to buy the property, and them, rather than doing it the way you would typically do it, where you buy the property and you know you got a mortgage recorded downtown and things like that. In this case, they're going in and buying the beneficial interest. Is that right, Larry? Maybe you want to
Correct.
add to that? Okay.
It's the trust language converts any form of ownership of real estate into personal property, just the verbiage alone. And here's another interesting point. If you sell the beneficial interest and the people fail to pay, there is no foreclosure, because they're buying personal property. Just like if you sold someone your car on time payments, if they didn't pay, you would repossess it, take it away from them. And when you sell beneficial interest of a property, they weren't buying the real estate. They were buying the beneficial interest of a trust that controlled a property. It's a little confusing, but it's a miracle way of doing deals, because there is no foreclosure if done correctly. It would be an eviction, get the people out.
That's right. Makes it a lot simpler, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, save you a year of time and all the cost of people not paying, because they're not buying real estate, they're buying an interest in a trust.
Yep. I got it. Yep. Simple. We like this one. This is our favorite, to be honest with you.
Well,
because we do them.
I mean, we've done these for years.
Yep.
We've done these for years because of the ease of, if somebody doesn't pay, getting them out. And this does not violate Dodd-Frank in any way, shape, or form, because you're not selling real estate. You're selling personal property, which is just an interest, or buying the ownership of the trust, but not the asset in the trust until it's all paid for. So it's a wonderful way. And I like that. It's simple. And once you understand it, it's really simple to do. And That's what I specialize in doing, is teaching people how to do these deals, because what I've done is I have created a land trust course. And in this land trust course, I have a 3-day training. In this 3-day training, I show you exactly how to do it, what paperwork to use. It's simple. And for anybody that's confused, we clear up every detail that you want to know. Once you go through this 3 days, you'll never have any question how land trusts work. You'll understand it. So I've got this great Mastering Land Trust course. And what I have is I have an audio CD and I have a document CD. So that the document CD is in Word. So you get a 160-page land trust to protect your real estate assets from Lawsuit Happy America. You get the course manual, which has a lot of flow charts in it. So to make it easier for you to understand, I use flow charts. That way, anybody can see the sequence of how it all works. And you get a 1-hour audio CD about what's in the book and how it works. And you get the land trust documents on the CD, and they all contain all the operational land trust documents, all the pertinent, the trust, the deed, the assignment of beneficial interest, and anything else that is needed to complete a land trust. They're simple and easy to do. I also include some bonuses. Bonus number 1 is I have a CD that I recorded. It's about cash in a flash. It's what I consider to be the fastest way to start making quick money in real estate. For those of you that are struggling, this is an hour-long CD on how to get started and start making money quickly. That's a must for everybody. If you're in the real estate business and you're not making the kind of money you think you should make. Bonus number 2, I recorded another CD called Massive Profits with Multiple Offers. Because I do creative deals, I deal with the seller. And so when I deal with a seller, many times I have to have different solutions so that when the seller shakes their head no, I have got another solution pre-planned. So having multiple solutions or multiple offers to make to the seller it's very, very important, because when they shake their head no, you can say, don't tell me what you won't do, tell me what you will do, and you can present another solution. If they shake their head no, you have another solution. I show you how to do that. It's easy, but when this CD alone will tell you exactly how to create multiple offers so you're never caught flat-footed when you're discussing buying a property with a seller. This is a very, very important CD. That's why I recorded it. Bonus number 3, we have a comprehensive tax strategies using land trusts. And what this is if you own multiple properties, the land trust can allow you, if done correctly, and I show you exactly how to do it. I give you the diagram so that, number 1, we never use trust to avoid paying taxes we owe. That's one thing that is definite. We never try to avoid paying taxes. But if you do pay taxes because you own multiple properties in trusts, which I think you should own all properties in trust, never in your own name. That way you never appear in public record at the courthouse. So the trip and fall people aren't going to search you out, go through the court records and see you own 12 properties, and they go trip and fall on one of your properties because your name doesn't appear. And these tax strategies, because if they ever win a lawsuit, their attorney's going to go do a search of what's in your name so they know exactly where the treasures are. And they can come after them and try and take them away from you for a bogus lawsuit. Nuisance lawsuits are terrible. And they're the reason we use land trusts for 2 reasons. Number 1 is privacy. We don't want our name everywhere in public record. Number 2 is estate planning. Those are the 2 critical points of using the land trust, because if you name a contingent beneficiary, Just name somebody in your family or your friends or someone so that upon your death, it passes to them directly and they won't have a tax consequence. So the privacy is critical to keep the nuisance lawsuits off your back, and the estate planning, so that when you pass away, it goes directly to who you want it to go to. So if you ever lose a lawsuit, the opposing counsel, the first thing they're going to do is do an asset check, but they're also going to subpoena your tax records, your income tax records, to see what you pay taxes on. So you may lie to them, but you're probably going to be claiming and paying the taxes. And so they'll subpoena your tax records. And what I have for you is a way so that they can't find it on your personal tax return, because none of your rental properties or your income properties will show on your personal tax return. That right there is worth tons of money. People have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to learn how to do that. With this book, you get a diagram of that. And this includes bonus number 4, a 3-day intensive Master's Land Trust training class. This class is about you. It's about you learning how to do the land trust things that need to be done, so you understand it. When you come to this class, before you leave, you will fill out a deed, you will fill out a trust, and you will fill out an assignment of beneficial interest. So when you go home, you have the documents in Word, you know how to fill them out, you know what goes on each line. It will be a simple exercise that will stick with you. And besides that, you can always call me. So all of the bonuses, they're valued over $1,400 if you bought them individually. But what I'm doing is, today, it's $899, which is a fair price. Everyone else in the business that teaches anything about land trusts are charging more and give you less information than what I give you. So $899 for all of this information, and that one form alone to keep it off your income tax is worth more than that. What would you have to pay an attorney to prepare that? One document alone, one diagram. So that right there. And the bonuses are free today, but they're only free today, only today. So anybody that's on this call that wants to get all of these bonuses with the course, today they're all free. They come with it. Now, also, Alan and I put our heads together, and we decided for anybody that gets the land trust course, so you can do the things that we explained to you, how you can protect yourself, how you can do all of the things we talked about. We've decided we would include, for anybody that buys today, Alan's Dodd-Frank ebook, which is a $19.97 value, and my ebook, which is a $29.97 value. You will get both of those free if you get the course today. So what I recommend, you got to take action, because this offer isn't going to last forever. Just go to www.alansoffer.com/trust. That's the best place to go. And you need to do it now. Or you can call 800-584-3346. But you've got to take action. This is something you're going to want in your arsenal of information. Those ebooks are great, but the land trust is an even better, powerful tool once you understand it. Now, what I've done in addition to the bonuses, because if you go talk to your attorney about land trust, you have no idea what to say to them. You have no idea the questions that you need to answer. So I prepared a package for your attorney so that you can make copies of it, and you can take that to your attorney, hand it to your attorney, walk away. They will completely understand what you're trying to do. So it saves you having to sit there and say, I don't know. what I'm trying to do. It explains it all. I've done that to make it easy for you because you don't know the answers to the questions they're going to ask. I've done that for you. Next, I've also got a package for your CPA to keep your trust property information off your personal income tax records. You hand this package to your CPA. And what this is a very astute and well-trained CPA who's done many, many, many returns on land trust properties. She prepared a sample tax return. And it has an explanation for your CPA of what you're doing so that you can hand that to your CPA. They now understand everything they need to know to keep all of this information off from your personal tax return. That is a very important thing because you don't understand what to say. I've done it for you. Also, the next thing, multiple property asset protection. Here's a diagram of exactly what I'm talking about, how to keep it off your tax return. And what you do is you hand that one copy that comes with the package to your attorney and one copy to your CPA. They know exactly what to do. You're done. That way you have gotten what you want. You have to train them so you make sure they're doing exactly what you want. So let's go over what you get again. You get a 160-page land trust manual, the course, and it's got the flow charts, diagrams that make it simple and easy for you. You get the 1-hour audio CD. You get the 1-hour land trust documents and all the other pertinent documents that you need. You get bonus 1, the cash in a flash CD. Bonus 2 is a massive profits with multiple offers CD. Bonus 3, comprehensive tax strategies, like I just showed you on the previous slide, using land trust. And you get the 3-day intensive master's land trust training. Now, when you come to my training, you can repeat the class after that point every time I do one of the classes for free. The training is for 2 people. So you can always bring a friend and you can repeat the class as often as you want. I do these classes it's a 3-day training. I do it every 3 months. So you will not have to wait long, and you can always repeat for free. It's for 2 people. So today, Alan wants to give you a great deal, and so do I. We're going to take the price and reduce it to $699. And if you buy today only, you not only get all of the bonuses, the land trust course, you also get both ebooks for free. That's critical because if you have all the information you need, you realize the advantage you have over all of your competition. Nobody out there will understand what you understand. This has been information that is very hard to come by. It took 2 well-established real estate investors that have been trained over many years. I've been in the business 35 years. I am a student. I have continually learned these things to help you. That's why I have so many successful students all over the country. So you get everything $699 today. Now, we're only going to do this for the first 10 that call or go on the internet site. For the first 10, you get everything. After that, you can get the land trust course and the bonuses that come with that. Also, if you buy today, you get a 7-day money-back guarantee. If it's not everything I say it is, send it back, and you will get your money back. $699 for all that information is an insane price because one document in that package, what would an attorney charge you to create a land trust? I give you one that's got more in it than the boilerplate one that the attorney would give you because we do things on purpose. Alan and I always think about what we're doing. We do everything on purpose. And this package is designed to help you make sure that you do everything proper. And it's simple to learn, simple and easy to understand. That's why I do the 3-day class. And that class has been a success for everybody that's ever attended. And here again, you get my cell phone number when you buy this, so you can call me with any questions you may have. You're not going to beat this price anywhere. This is the best deal you're ever going to find anywhere that's going to give you information none of your competition has. So I think it's a great deal. What do you think, Alan?
Oh, it's awesome. I'll tell you what, one of the things that happened to me when I started out on land trust was communicating with my attorney, and you've got that handled. You've added an item in here which makes it so easy, folks, because you've already done it for them. It's all done.
Right.
That item you talked about, that they can give the attorney, and you got another item that they can give to their CPA. You're mastering the land trust system is amazing. You and I have used land trust for years and years and years, and there's a solid reason. Actually, it's plural, multiple reasons on why we use land trust. I use them because I did such volume. I didn't want my name scattered all over the computers all over the in town to where anybody would know what I owned. So
that's right.
I didn't want that, and it's also enabled me to sell houses just like you've talked about. I've actually done that. Where you're talking about giving somebody the beneficial interest, I've actually done it that way. You can sell a house that way, and that's what I've done. So, you and I have done it for years. And here, what's happened to all of us is this, the Dodd-Frank Act, and it even makes using land trust and more viable than ever before, because now you got another avenue to use the land trust to help you with the Dodd-Frank Act. So, we're doing this webinar to teach people about the Dodd-Frank and also offer them a way to ease their pain a little bit with your system and mastering land trust by you. I'm going to tell people here that don't know you, Larry, that one of the things about Larry, he is an extremely detail-oriented person, and when he puts together a system, it is rock solid and it is amazing. And this system is amazing. And the bonuses are awesome. But the 160-page manual and 3 days with you, they're going to walk out of there being a master of how to do land trust. And one of the things about land trust when you first start to do them is you don't understand the paperwork, and it's a little bit confusing, and it's a struggle. But once you realize how valuable it is, I wouldn't I wouldn't buy a property without having one. I
wouldn't either.
I
would not either.
Why would you expose yourself? So, even without the Dodd-Frank Act, everybody ought to be doing land trust. And in my world, and I'll tell you what, you want to, people are getting into this business to build an empire. They get into this business to be wealthy. And you sure the heck don't want to expose your assets out there where somebody come out and take them away from you. And the purpose of the land trust is to put a shield up, if you will, where people don't know what you own, and there's so many other benefits with the land trust. So you guys ought to jump all over this. Just go to alansoffer.com/trust. It's made my name plural, ALANS offer, OFFER.com/trust, because we're talking about a master land trust, Larry's home study system, or call 800-584-3346. I've got friendly operators out there standing by to help you out, and they can guide you on this. But frankly, I wouldn't wait. I'd be the first 10. I'd go out there and just put in, just click on your browser, go out there and put in alansoffer.com/trust, and jump all over this. You got nothing to lose. The 7 days Larry talked about, that starts once you get the system. Check it out, but you won't return it. You'd be silly to, because it's a tool that you need in your arsenal, and that's part of being in real estate is you got to get the tools put together to protect your castle. So, Larry, I want to thank you for taking the time on this. I know the first part of that I did. You could have done it blindfolded, but appreciate you letting me do that.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Yeah. And Larry is a master on this. So, folks, jump all over this and get your hands on this. You got nothing to lose, everything to gain, and to your wealth. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.